I'm live right now on TikTok and YouTube doing the thing that I always do. Rant about human design. Come join me. I'm live on TikTok and YouTube talking about human design and Reiki and all these wonderful things that I love to talk about. So if you see that thing pulsing, join the live. TikTok is really. Come join me. I'm live on TikTok and YouTube talking about human design and Reiki and all these wonderful things that I love to talk about. So if you see that thing pulsing, join the live. Live. I can't tell if I'm getting better or I literally can't tell. Am I not posting as more often? Is that I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter, I suppose, because the message is still getting out there, which is great. Eating my pastries. What's up, everyone? How we doing? Back on the schedule for the most part. Welcome to my magic school bus. Today we're talking about the same thing that we're always talking about because I love it as the foundation of talking about everything. Reiki and then human design. Which, if you're not familiar with Reiki, Reiki is a Japanese healing modality that involves tapping into the physical body's natural healing properties to create healing at an energetic level for the emotions, the mind, the spirit, and the physical body. Now, you combine that with human design. Human design is essentially a mental framework for seeing these energies. And so, really, what we're doing, or what I'm doing, and what we're doing here, is we're looking at the bridges between um, the physical body and the spiritual world. And there are a lot of bridges, but most of us have not been taught that. And so, as someone who is not taught that, and as someone who had to learn all of that on my own and seek out teachers and like really look for it, um, I think it's important to share it with people because some things that I learned that I used to pull myself out of depression or that I used to combat my anxiety, I think can be very helpful for you. And a lot of what I do is derived from the human design system. Thank you for whoever is pumping these hearts out. Like I haven't really even gotten started on this, but thank you for whoever's liking the live. Welcome to all the new people on the live. Um, really what I'm doing with human design is I'm looking at what is the best way to use this map. Aloha, Riley. What is the best way to use this map we call human design? Because there are so many ways to use it, and there's so many ways to like look like you're using it, but not actually be hunting the treasure or like getting the thing that you want from it. So it's so important, I think, especially with spirituality, not to become dazzled by the flashing lights of spirituality and the lingo of it and the cool attire and dress. Like, I don't dress like a spiritual person. I have a corduroy bucket hat and I wear anime shirts, right? Um, but there's a lot of things that I do in my life that help me to embody my spirituality and my natural essence. And they're very, very simple. I've made it very simple for myself. Like I can go outside and touch dirt and touch grass very easily, very, very easily. I get plenty of sunlight. I keep my health active, my body active. And when it comes to the way that I use human design, is, I'm not necessarily, judging people who don't use human design, but I am judging people who aren't open minded enough to at least experiment with human design. Like, there's nobody in my life that's close to me that doesn't, to some degree, use human design in their lives. Adam is asking what it means to be a projector. So this is a perfect example. My partner is a projector. She has what's called, and y'all projectors have what's called um, penetrating auras. So your energetic field is absorbing the information from around you. Projectors are generally very open in the sense that a lot of their centers are able to sample information from the external world and then refocus that energy. And the projector is here to be a guide. However, with an absorbing and focusing aura, just like any other aura, you know, just because you've got some guidance for someone doesn't mean that they are necessarily going to be ready to receive it. So, as a projector, you will experience bitterness, you will experience resentment, you will experience quote unquote things sucking ass if you don't wait for people to invite you to guide them. Like, you can imagine if you are in a group setting and the guide of your group is going off in the wrong direction, and you as a projector, like, maybe you're thinking, oh, I know the right direction to go. If you engage in a power struggle with the current guide, yes, you might end up being able to guide the group successfully, but it's never going to work as well as if the guide or somebody asks you, hey, where do you think we should go? And a lot of the times I find in situations like that, it takes that kind of invitation of like, hey, we don't trust this guide anymore. Where do you think we should go? Because you've been on this trail before. But if you act before then, there's this tendency for you as a projector to continuously be around groups and be with people where you have to be the one to initiate, where people don't see you for what you can do, and therefore they're not able to invite you to do the thing that you do really well. So it's so important for projectors to wait for the invitation because, you know, I've also watched them ask for an invite, and this works too. Right. Yeah. It's like, I always say, especially if you're like just learning human design, stay away from, I like to call it seeding the invitation. Because what you really want to do as a projector is you want to like starve yourself of this like need to be a guide. Was one of the greatest things you can do for yourself is guide yourself until someone sees how successful you are at guiding yourself that they ask you to guide them. Energy projector here, still undoing my manifestor conditioning. Right. So the manifestor conditioning, what you're talking about is this idea that, if you want to manifest something, that you have to constantly be putting it out there and constantly be initiating and like making it happen, which most of the people in the world, their auras do not work well in initiating. It's not something they can consistently do. And so what happens a lot of the times is that you get projectors, generators, manifesting generators, and reflectors behaving like manifestors, constantly initiating things. And then because they're busy initiating things, they're actually not able to properly attract the opportunities and magnetize the people and relationships and experiences that are actually for them. So it gets in the way. And the way you can think about it is like, if you have a couch with a bunch of pillows on it and you're upset no one sits on the couch, you're wondering what's wrong. It's because there's a bunch of pillows on the couch. Take the pillows off the couch, and then the couch will become more available for people's butts. Right now, there's a bunch of pillows there. Do you have any emotional authority or not? So, I do not have emotional authority. I'm a reflector. So, we have lunar authority. But some of my best friends are emotional authority. My brother's emotional authority. My daughter is emotional authority. Um, Half of the people in the world have emotional authority. So it's awesome. Oh my God, I'm the manifester that cannot magnetize to save my life, but I'm the catalyst. Sages of the ages. This is how we do it. So then you find people around you that aren't can see that and know how to properly give you information and properly set you up so that you can do the catalyzing. Oh my God, you're only the second reflector I've ever met. Hello, welcome. Marco, I've been talking to Chat GTP about my chart and it's helped further my knowledge a little bit. Interesting, Riley. So be careful with Chat GTP. I will say there's definitely like plenty of relevant information that Chat GTP can give about human design. It's also like not human design, right? Like Chat GTP, and it operates by, naturally, like scrubbing all the information on the internet. Human design can be used as like separate words, and so it's just like with Chat GTP, be really mindful about it because Chat GTP is an AI. It doesn't understand as well as a human being the nuances of human design. um it helps me figure out what questions I should be asking. That's great too. So again, it's like, and even with a human design reader, like if you come to me asking for a reading, which plenty of people do, I don't just spend the entire time like telling you who you are. This is not about who you are. This is about where you're at and what's natural for you, and scratching away, anything that's how you say, covering up who you actually are. It's about discovering who you actually are. Sarah wants to know if we go live often. So we do. We are actually on a. Yesterday I took off because it was Labor Day, and I had a lot of other things going on that day. But typically, what we're doing is Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hawaii time. Why do take people? Why take advantage of gullible and desperate people? Are Be more specific. Have you ever been taken advantage of, or have you unconsciously ever taken advantage of someone? It's kind of what human beings do, and it's competition. And if you talk about it, it's actually called collaboration. How do manifesting generators make sure that they're responding from their gut? So, practice. 40 March, definitely practice. It's like um, getting used to, for instance, like singing or learning another language. Like you have to use the language. So the language of the gut is like uh-huh, all of that. And it just takes practice. So why do I take advantage of gullible and desperate people? Is this like a call out, or like are you actually genuinely curious? Because I do my best to not take advantage of people. That's why I come on live and I answer questions and all these things. I would say I do it probably unconsciously, definitely. Although I do my best to be aware of it. Have you studied human design? If you haven't, you should before making accusations. Yeah, and if this is just skepticism about human design and it being a scam, like you really have to be you have to do the experiment. And if you don't do the experiment, unfortunately, you don't have any ability to say that it's not relevant. You said the word scam. Bud, bud. What does it mean if you thrive best in markets? So markets are like man-made environments, right? Man-made environments in the sense that it's places for people to come together and exchange ideas and goods and products and things like that. And so when it comes to markets, it's really about commerce. It's about this this like exponential growth that happens when it's like you have something I don't want, etc. Do you get to decide what energy you take in and sample as reflectors? Sometimes, most of the times, yeah. But definitely sometimes no. Um, what I've learned is that essentially, the more aware that I can be of myself while I'm with my friends, not even just of my friends, but myself while I'm with my friends, that usually helps me to determine whether or not, because like for me, open and closing is like I'm just like around. I'm around some people, you know. I'm around people and my aura is going to either open to them or close. Sometimes I want the aura to open, but it's not time to open. And so I kind of watch that part of myself. Like, what part of me like really wants to open up to this person? And why is it not? Like, again, this is the thing is like to speak to the person who's all charged up, little cowboy person here. Um, their reading level is above eighth grade, which is great. Which I might have to kick this person out because now it's like I'm just getting annoyed. It's a skill to track yourself. You know, people want to say that you know, astrology or spirituality or all this stuffs are like gimmicks and dumb, but it's like you have to develop a skill. And a lot of these people who say like spirituality and new age stuff is dumb, again, they're a lot of that. I've never met someone who's like done the actual work and then said that was dumb. That like, "Oh, that was a scam." It's like, well, you could say that about a gym. That's like buying a gym membership, never going to the gym and saying the gym is a scam. Um, so as a reflector, do you find yourself accidentally becoming like others? Big time, big time. And you know, that's something that's really fun for me to watch because there's certain people that like I realize I want to be like them more than I want to be like myself. And that's really important for me to recognize because sometimes I'm valuing something somebody does or the way somebody is better than I do. Um, and that's good information for me. Very good information. Can you talk about how the emotional waves affects generator cycle? So the emotional wave will affect everybody's strategy. Um, and this goes for people with undefined emotional centers as well. It's like, you know, just because you have an undefined solar plexus doesn't necessarily know, um, doesn't mean that you don't have emotions. It just means that the way your emotions arise and the type of emotions, the range of emotions that you're going to experience and the frequency of them is going to be like less consistent. All right, Mr. Cup Space, you're getting annoying. I see you do jujitsu. I wish I could roll with you, but unfortunately, we're just going to mute you. Let's mute you for 5 minutes. Let's see if you can just listen. But anyway, the emotional wave, it's going to just like completely take authority of your internal systems. Yeah, I muted that guy. I muted him for 5 minutes just to see if he would actually listen. You know, again, and I'm not upset about it. It's skepticism, I think, is actually really brilliant. What's unfortunate is that when people are so based in like logic and reality that they're not able to open their mind and experiencing anything new. Um, Once they do open their mind and experience something new, then they become like I was a huge skeptic on all this. And to be totally honest, like astrology, a lot of the other systems in like the new age world, really they weren't for me because they didn't give me any practical things or skills to develop. It was just like, oh, this means this about you and that means that. And human design doesn't do that. Human design says, hey, experiment with living this way and see if it makes your life better. Like it's it's the little epitome of the scientific method, right? So, but what about the people in the logical channels? Yeah, people with logical channels will definitely like naturally kind of apply more logic to let's see. Ego manifestors got to be fun for the people. That's funny. The human design experiment. We should absolutely question things, believing that our perception is the only correct one is wrong. Yeah. So that, like, believing that my perception is the only one that's right, that leads to tyranny. That leads to dictatorship. That's called the inflation of the internal authority. Now, the opposite is believing that everybody else is right and that you're never right. That's inflation of the external authority, right? Larger external authority or inflated external authority makes me feel like nothing. Inflated internal authority makes everyone else feel like they're nothing. And it's neither or. It's and so much of the emotions is about finding harmony, which is not balance. It's not like the same thing. It's not like 50-50. It's like this is leading when it's appropriate for this to lead, and then this is leading when this appropriate for this to lead. So let's go find this question over here. I've had a hard time finding myself as a reflector. Any tips? So one of the biggest tips I can give to reflectors is, number one, it's like really be in your body. Like every morning, be in your body. And what I mean by that is like sprint, jump, run, throw, kick. So important for everyone in general to be in their body, but especially reflectors, be in your body. Have at least 5 minutes by yourself as a reflector every morning to just sit and like be in the stillness. I would recommend doing this before sleep as well. So that's number two, is take at least 5 minutes upon rising and before going to sleep and just be still, watch your thoughts, etc. These are super basic things, but very, very important. A lot of people will forget them. Number one is be your own body. Number three is sleep in your own bed as a reflector and as an undefined sacral being in general. Super helpful to sleep in your own bed. I also recommend that everybody sleeps in their own bed. This is just my belief. You lost sound as I was answering you. Oh no. Um, so first thing I said was being physical, like being really in your body. Sprinting, throwing, running, walking, those are like the best things. Second thing is to meditate when you wake up and when you go to sleep or before you go to sleep. 5 minutes is a great place to start. Work your way up towards like 20 minutes and 30 minutes. Awesome. Third thing is sleep in your own bed, especially if you have a partner. um, Big time. um, and let's see what else is there. Journal. Like, that's one thing that I do a lot, is like I'll just write, like on full moons, on new moons, when I'm just feeling like I need to reflect, just like get it out of your head onto paper. um as a manifester with a projector partner and man gen baby, we all sleep better when we sleep on our own. Big time. What would my chart say anything about functional freeze? It definitely could, Amanda. So if you look at gates in the spleen, you might be able to learn something about the functional freezing. Um, Also, if you have an undefined heart, there might be this tendency to like prove yourself that could cause that functional freeze. There's a lot of places that you can look. And the cool thing about it again is like, as much as I could just answer that question, or people are looking for like what's the answer to this question? It's more like you have to figure out how to read the body graph, or you have to have somebody who knows how to read the body graph so they can tell you how to find the answer to that question in everything. And that's like really what we want to do, is we want to be able to build the skill of of being able to um, find the answers for these questions in our own life. That's called tracking. That's pattern recognition. It's triangulation. All right. It's in order to move distances and to know which direction you're moving, you have to be able to what's called triangulate your position, which is use references in your available landscape to be able to find out where you're going. I'm an ego manifester. I was looking for your comment, Roro. So ego manifestors are interesting because the ego is very much so about achievement. It's very much so about like the things you've done. Um, if you're in control, what's yours, what you've created. And so, one of the things that's really helpful for the ego authority is to really consider what your achievements mean to you, or what your lack of achievements may even mean to you. Same thing with the projector. Ego is all about like the material world. Um, I think Ra might have been an ego manifester, although actually, let's see what his was. I think he was an ego manifester. Yeah. which is like, and it's crazy because it's like he definitely brought through. Oh no, he was a splenic manifester because he had the defined spleen. But with the defined ego, he has part of what's called this like very mystical channel of initiation that is the human design system. The manifestation of his circuitry was the human design system. Um, which again, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, he's a white dude that just like desperately wanted a spiritual awakening, so he bastardized a bunch of ancient systems and made human design, and it's a cult." And I'm like, these people have obviously never actually given human design an actual shot. Because if they did, they would realize that even if this were a cult, there's no how do you say, there's no power that this strips away from people. It's like literally the opposite. Yes, classes are expensive, which is why I do what I do, because I wanted to buy classes, but I was broke. Tips for a manifesting generator. All right, Lizzie, if you don't like your singing voice, great news. Learn to tolerate your singing voice. And then when you've learned to tolerate your singing voice, learn to enjoy your singing voice. Those two things are really going to help. Dancing, spiraling hips, spiral circles and stuff, very, very helpful. Pay attention to your gut and your sex organs. Pay attention to the arousal or the like disgust from those areas. Because that, as a manifesting generator, that's what you're going to want to listen to, is the gut responses to life. Boundaries cause the openness was taking me so far off. Wait, what do you mean? Did I miss something? Hard to say because many people are not self. Right. So in human design, for those of you that don't know what the not self is, the not self signature is essentially like everything that's not you. Everything that is how you say that you judge to be more appropriate than like manifesting your authentic response or manifesting your authentic signature into the world. And so there's a lot of things that can pull you into not self activity, thinking you're not good enough, any type of like external pressure to do something. Like your friends are like, "Oh, come on, like come to this party with us," and you're like, I don't really want to go. I don't have energy for it. Plus, I don't really like the people there. But you let the external pressure of your friends get you to do something that you don't really want to do. That would create this not self vibration, which you might like go to the party and meet someone like very interesting or very juicy, but because you went to the party out of like a not self signature, chances are that experience with that person is going to be like long term successful is probably going to be less. I want to be an inventor, but none of my head center is defined. You're totally fine. Like as an inventor, one of the greatest things that inventors do is they take things that have been done before and they find better ways to do them. Like I saw a TED talk the other day and it was brilliant because the guy he opens up by saying, "Get two dishwashers." And I'm thinking like this is dumb, but it's also like very interesting because I've never heard someone say get two dishwashers. And at first again, like I thought it was dumb. But then he explains if you have two dishwashers, you have no need for cupboards. You can take all of your dirty dishes, put them in one dishwasher. When that's full, you run it. Now you have clean dishes in dishwasher one. You use the dishes from dishwasher one, And then as they get dirty, you take them, rinse them off, put them in dishwasher two. That's your dirty dishwasher. And then when that gets full, you run that and clean that. Now your first dishwasher is empty because you've used all those plates. They're all now clean. And so you never have to you eliminate a step of like washing dishes, which is putting dishes away. And I'm like, oh shit, someone already invented the dishwasher. So, but also somebody is doing that in their household, and they've invented a new way to use them. Like even with human design, some people don't want to call it an invention, but it's like we didn't have this way of using astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah. We didn't have it before. It was invented, and it was invented by someone who has an undefined head, which is cool because Ra has an undefined head. But you like understand that like invention doesn't necessarily mean that you're bringing things into the world that have never been seen before. A lot of the times it means that you're able to bring something into the world maybe that has been seen before, but not necessarily in a particular way. Um, and so it's like things are being reinvented all the time. And it's if you really think about it and you believe the earth is as old as I believe it is, all of the things that we have today have already been invented. We're rediscovering them and reinventing them because all of these, technology, certain types of engineering, so much stuff has already existed, I believe, on this planet before in different iterations. Um, so you don't need definition in your chart anywhere to be an inventor. Now, to for certain types of invention, um and I'm curious, like when you say you want to be an inventor, what things do you want to invent? Everyone promised not to steal them if they're really good ideas. Focus on yourself and mastering your craft. People will start to recognize, um invite you to collaborate or lead a project. Hey Prana, long time no see, my friend. You're right. I just love the mystery of having knowledge no one else has. Ah, so you must have the Gate 61. Gate 61 is that like, what is bark made of, or what happens after it's like this pressure to like know something that maybe the rest of the world doesn't, or maybe even just to know something that you don't know. I'm in music school and I'm pretty much everything has already been done. I'm just doing a different. Music is a great example. Like every chord progression has been written, every melody has been written. And, if I want to get better or invent my own crafts, one of the greatest things I can do is study what's already been created. Because in studying what's already been created, not only am I refining the skills, but I'm also realizing like, oh, this has already been done. There's something else that can be done. What happens if I do this? Then you start to experiment. I work in IT and want to bring something revolutionary. It makes sense. Makes sense. With when it comes to again technology, right? One of the things that I always ask myself when it comes to technology is like, what is the user experience like? Like, same thing with human design. That was one of the things I was curious about. What is the user experience of human design? Because my user experience was like someone told me about it, and then I just had to like Google it and figure it out. And so, part of what I have invented is not human design, but it's a way of engaging with human design where it's like there's a report, there's an app, there's sessions, there's a method to, incorporating this into your life. And so that's one thing that I always think about. Like the user interfaces, in my opinion, can always be improved, especially because human beings, we will use something and then we will find a better way to use it. Like TikTok was a better way to discover things online than Instagram and then YouTube. That's why TikTok had such a meteoric rise. And the exciting thing about human design I see is it's a superior, in my opinion, a superior interface to be able to connect with like your energy and all of that. um Kevin the Kid, let me see what your question is. A projector musician. So one of the things about projectors, being a projector musician, projector help with being a music artist. So show people how you're doing stuff. Like if you're writing a song, film yourself in the process of writing the song, right? And not just so you can like post it on social media, but also so you can like extrapolate your own process. Like ask yourself, what is the process of me writing a song? can I document that? And your songs as well could be about the things that you're learning how to incorporate or integrate into your life. um, as a musician, I think one of the most beautiful things that musicians do is they take the things that most people are too afraid to say, and they say them, or they sing them rather. And so one of the things I can say as well is, as a musician, if you're writing lyrics, like, make lyrics that are more embarrassing. I heard this once, from one of the musicians I follow. He's like, say the embarrassing thing, say the cliche thing, say the thing that's going to make people cringe. I was right. You have Gate 61. Yeah, makes sense. I have it too, so I'm right there with you. um, so I hope that helps with being a musician, and also realize as well, with technology we have such a an overwhelming choice of like types of musicians, that you can be a producer, you can be a performance artist. There's so many more niches now. You can learn this instrument, you can learn that instrument. As a projector, one of the things that you ought to really be interested in um is music theory. And I would say one of the things that could make you a better musician, Kevin, is if you study music theory. As someone who was not classically trained in music theory, because I just play guitar, and I learned through tabs. But one of the best things you can do is start to engage with music theory, not because it'll give you the ability to play music that's already been played, but because it will teach you about the relationships between 1 3 and then 1 5 It'll teach you about like tension between music, which I think is super helpful for all musicians. And it's already been figured out. It's music theory. Now the different combinations of tensions and relief and all this stuff that you can put together, and having known music theory, it's like you got to know the rules to break them first, because some people are breaking rules that they don't even know that they're breaking, and that's one way too. You call that an unconscious competent. But if you want to know why you do the things that you do, and be able to explain it to people, or express it to people in a way where like they're like, oh, I can do that too, you have to know what the rules are. So thank you guys, by the way, for liking the live. I have not been on top of reminding you guys. A couple of you have been liking the lives as well, which has been great. But if we get this number up, guys, if we get that number up, TikTok shows this to more people, and life is good. Cody the Sound Healer, my brother. Um, like getting things ready for school right now, email and stuff. Any tips for a 2-4 with the incarnation cross of the sleeping Sphinx? Sleeping Sphinx or sleeping Phoenix? Is there a sleeping Sphinx? I don't think so. I'm so curious to know why your sacral doesn't have the energy. So this is actually really funny, because like the greatest answer to like why doesn't someone's sacral have energy is like they just don't. Like, and I've learned this the hard way. Like, I have a friend who is brilliant, but sometimes like he does not have the energy to do that the thing that he needs to do to move himself forward. And sometimes he just doesn't have the energy for it. And I have tried so often to be like, why don't you have the energy for it? And he's very like, logically he has a bunch of different ideas, but what I've come to understand is like the sacral doesn't think the way the mind does. It's just like on or off. And you can extrapolate it from the mind, but one of the best things you can do for the sacral is to really just learn to like accept the energy that's present in the sacral. Because you can do things when you're able to apply the mind to the sacral, you can do things to sort of like manipulate it and like find ways around it. And that may not be the best thing. Now again, everything is up for experimentation. You can do whatever you want, but you want to be really mindful when and that's why I like to do these sacral calibrations, because I get to watch myself in real time be like, oh, I don't like that answer, I want a different answer. And I'm watching my sacral doing this kind of like Well, do you want me to just do what you say, or do you want me to be truthful and honest? So yeah, just be really mindful with that. Actually have no centers connected to my sacral. Oh, so undefined sacral. So people with undefined sacral, it's pretty natural for you to like, have energy for something one day and then not have it for the other day. Like just because you wake up one day, especially if you have an undefined sacral, and you're like, I don't have energy for school, don't quit school. You know what I mean? Like spend more time feeling into it, because over time your sacral might realize like, oh, I do like school, but it's actually this part about school that I don't like, or this teacher or something like that. So it might be more specific, and with an undefined sacral, it can sometimes be hard to figure out what is the specific thing that I'm like, I don't like it. Oh my God, not me here thinking about quitting school. I'm the worst person to talk to about school because I dropped out and things went great for me. Not only did I not fall into debt, but um, w- I also like found something that really lit me up day after day. And like there were days when I didn't want to wake up and do Reiki. I didn't want to wake up and engage in my like Reiki practices. And some of the days I didn't, but I didn't give up on it. And so yeah, I would say with school, it's like, it depends on really what you want to do. Like, if there's a lot of things in life that it's better to go to school for. And there's also plenty of things in life where, like, you really do not need school. Like, if you want to go into business, I recommend um, at least finding a business to work for or intern for over going to school. That's my thought. Business school, there's a lot of people walking around with really expensive business degrees and no business. Anyway. If your sacral is defined, it's because it's connected through another channel to another center, correct? The institution of school is crumbling. I'm a college student and shit is on fire. Yeah, true that. I'm getting into musical and script writing, but I'm a voice major. Oh yeah, Kenzie. So no. What I would say is, and here's if I could go back and redo school for myself, I wouldn't change anything. I would totally drop out. But if I were to give advice or give reflections and counsel to someone who's in school, consider that the school can be the real life experiences that I'm talking about. Like you can very much so be a musical major, do script writing, use the schooling, use the institution to find the connections, but don't rely on the learning and just being in school alone to take your career to the next level. And that's I think is the uh the assumption that a lot of people make, is that they are like, oh, I'm in school, so just by being in school and showing up to class every day, that's going to give me a career. It won't. You need to take advantage while you're in school of the opportunities and connections that are there. It's the hands you shake. Exactly. um 100%. If I could go back, I wouldn't have gone to uni, but I understand I needed to find my path. Right, same with me. I was like, oh, I would maybe have taken a gap year. And also I would recommend too is like, there's nothing wrong with a gap year. I think traveling for a year, like some international travel, is better for a lot of people than school. As a projector, I didn't do anything. All the opportunities came to me. This is what I'm talking about. All right. Well, like putting their hand out is an invitation for you to shake it to a degree. Invitation for friendship, invitation for a lot of things. Um, and but it really is though the hands that you shake, and that's like uh, a really cool like concept around what in human design we have what's called tribal circuitry, which is very much so around like touch and physical touch and being able to like when someone touches you, do you feel like an outsider or do you feel like you're a part of like the crew? So um touch is very very important, and again that's what I would call a subtle body sensation. So there are subtle sensations, and there are how you say more gross sensations, or like less subtle sense, like pain can be very subtle where you can ignore it. Pain can also be so debilitating that you can't ignore it, and that's all that you're able to experience is pain. When it comes to subtle bodies, right? touch is one of those things, like paying attention, like, oh, does my heart rate go up? Does my heart rate go down? Does my body tense up? Does my body relax when I'm in physical contact with this person? So very, very important uh, to pay attention to those subtle bodies. And that again is what human design for me has done so well, is it's giving me a language. It's giving me an opportunity um, to track what progress I've made or what lack of progress I've made. And it's just brilliant. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go into really making connections. Last year, I was very head down. Yeah, make connections, and one of the things too is it's not necessarily just make connections, but it's also really like watch what people are doing. And I think Kenzie, you're a projector. Is that right? How do you tell the subtle body stuff when you have chronic pain and illness? Though, does it still apply? So the chronic pain and like pain to me is always trying to tell me something. Man, Jen. Okay, yeah. So in that sense, it's like, again, pay attention to your sacral. If your sacral lights up, especially as a man, Jen, and it's like go shake that person's hand, you know, risk the frustration and go shake someone's hand. Thank you. I had sought this the other day and confirmed that approach. Appreciate it. When you break the rule that doesn't work, it's not about you, but the rules. I love that people are just like having their own conversations here. This is awesome. So Kenzie is an MG, so she's her sacral is defined. But I do remember you saying something about not having any channels connected. Is it red? Jenny's back, everybody. Undefined is white. Um, Defined is usually going to be red, or at least when you do it on my website or on Neutrino Design. Which, by the way, for anyone that is looking for an amazing app to um, use human design, if you visit the link in my bio, you can download Neutrino Design, which is literally the best app out there. Has so many crazy features that you're not going to find in other apps. It's also way more affordable than the other apps. And the user interface is like super clean. It's not like trying to be some like new age Oracle crystal ball. It's like, hey, this is the human design handbook. Get ready to like, dissect yourself, because that's kind of what it helps us do. Which there's a guy here in the chat, Prana, who was instrumental in making human design as good as it is today. Um, Absolute legend. He's someone I definitely look up to in the human design world in terms of experience, but then also like perspective, and he's really got his finger on the pulse. That's him right there, Prana. So send some love to Prana, guys. He's not a big social media but like I said, he's been like, we have Neutrino Design really because of a lot of Prana's work here. So I heard human design is a pyramid scheme. True. 0 point. Well, if human design was actually a pyramid scheme, you would actually have to have a compensation plan, which there is no compensation plan for human design. Imagine is like every time you share human design with one of your friends and they follow their strategy, you would just get points. That's hilarious. No one jump on I'm 0 point, by the way. He's just trolling me. He's a good friend. And obviously human design is not a pyramid scheme. But Prana is not only a very cool name, but it's also like, Prana is the term in yoga of like this like breath of life, this life force. And it's to me it's like synonymous with Reiki. Reiki is this universal life force. Prana is this breath, this essence, this energy. Chi in the Eastern traditions. What do we call it in life or grace? How I'm like wondering what like the Western Christian world would call this kind of energy. Like they would just call it life, um, a pulse, maybe. But the idea with human design, right, is like we're all these kind of like instruments, right? And the prana or the energy will move through us. It will come through the root and the crown, from the top and the bottom, and it's manifested in the throat. And the idea behind human design is that if you understand the way that energy will move from your root and your crown or your head to the throat and then be expressed, if you understand the route that it takes, what's available to it consistently, what's not available to it consistently, what the transit makes available, what other people make available, you can better track that and just be more intentional with it. Also, your aura has a prana. Exactly. So it's like when you breathe, and this is a fun way to talk about auras as well, because it's very like anime video game, which obviously I love. Um, Having Reiki or prana or this like life force in a field around you, like if you think about the breath that you exhale, carbon dioxide, that is necessary for a lot of plants. All, I guess, anything that photosynthesizes. Um, and when we're giving our breath, a lot of the time that's seen as you know how you say something is like, especially like indigenous cultures, is like you give your breath like a lot of the times, and I've been around a handful of indigenous people, and so often there's this like they want to hear you, they want to hear you giving your breath because they're so used to people that are not like them, who are not able to give breath, they're only able to take breath, only able to take things. And so, you know, what we're talking about with the aura is like this is your gift to the world, this is what you're giving to the world. Emotional wave is a prana. We got to bring back AMAs with prana. That's it. We were doing them a lot in Discord. I haven't been on the Discord in a minute. It's become very not as interesting to me. I love the Discord. There was definitely like a beautiful time, but it's been a lot more fun recently to just be live here on TikTok and everything. So as a reflector, do you feel the lunar cycles? I definitely feel the moon a lot as a reflector. Um, Maybe later this month. Yeah, I'll talk. Me and Prana will talk offline, and maybe I'll get him. I'll get him to do one of these. Do you know about human design gifts? An app I used my design told me I have gift 5. HD gifts. What is that all about? So some people have taken liberties to she spreads misinformation about human design. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are, you know, altering the fundamentals of human design and the languaging of human design. That is, yeah, unfortunately, it's like it's it's misinformation. Jenna Zoe, I've read a couple of her things. She's not. I don't think she's like totally off, but I definitely don't. I don't necessarily zero. She's your upline. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why like I'm not out here trying to train people in human design. Like I'll teach you how to use it for personal use, but when it comes to you know, again, passing the system on, I haven't even been formally trained in the system. I'm like a heretic. I've always been a heretic in that way. I take the route less traveled. Um that's just my style. Sub dog. Yeah, and your gifts in terms of like what you were talking about earlier, like Prana was saying, the gates are what they rename as gifts, but they're not that. They're not. The gift itself is like how you use it. Like you can use it's a gate. You know, you can bring evil through the gate or you can bring goodness through the gate. But it's a gate. It's not necessarily like a gate that no one passes through. Like what? How good of a gate is that? Anyway, I'm a heretic too. Yes, 3 5s all day. So yeah, so and again, there's nothing like there's like sidereal human design, which is just total fuckery in my opinion. There's quantum human design, which is just like makes human design more fluffy and yeah, I say it's like a birthday gift you were given when you were born. Yeah. Neutrinos the best. Yep, always. I take what resonates in my gut and leave the rest. What's the deal with heretics? So, profile wise, everyone has a profile 1341, 35, 36. And basically these are two numbers that are going to help you determine kind of like your style, right? You're a 1 5. You're probably I think you might be 5 1. Is it? I don't think there's 1 5. Um, but with like 5 1, for instance, that's my partner and my baby are 5 1. They're heretical investigators, right? And so they're beings that are very, how you say, solution oriented, but also at the same time, like they're wanting to pick things apart. The investigator in them like really wants to pick things apart. The threes and the sixes, right? This is like role model energy from the six. But the third line is like me. I'm a 3 5, so me and the 3 6s share that third line, which is like making mistakes, trial and error, right? Transformation on the material plane, and one that is, like designed to learn through experiencing failure, right? Husbands are 3 5s, right? What are we talking about here, Marco? So we're talking about human design right now. We're talking about um, profiles. Prada says 5 practical provisions in revolutionary times. Keep it to yourself if it's not essential. Prana has, as you can see, why Prana is such a goat. It's a really good job at synthesizing. Like I'll say 100 words, and he'll say like 13 and a half one-liners, and exactly. Lucky I'm not an egomaniac and I don't need to say the coolest thing at all. I'm a good reflector. I think one of the things that makes me a good reflector is like when someone's hitting it really well, I'm definitely going to be one of the first people to call attention to it. Um, Info about keepers of the wheel. I don't know much about keepers of the wheel, Riley. Some of my friends have had it, and I never really got into it, but Keepers of the Wheel has been an interesting one. Anytime I see wheel, I think, just about these kind of like archetypal energies that are like seasonal cardinal directions and energies. Yeah, it's not a well-known one. It's my first one. Then I have my aunt's second. How many projects do you have going on? I don't think that question's for me. Can you talk about our design changing when we are asleep? Like apparently I'm an MG during sleep. You know what? I actually don't know too much about that. Prana, maybe you could bring through some schooling in terms of what I do know is that when we're vertical, right, like our designs are activated based off orientation. So like for instance, if you're facing somebody, there's a different interaction than if they're to your side or they're to your back, energetically speaking. And so when you're horizontal, that has a lot to do with the way that the energy is now shifted or what's available in terms of moving through your body. And essentially when you're horizontal, you're more like a base mammal and uh, uh, like a dog or something, because dogs are horizontal as opposed to vertical. Right? The wheel makes me think of ancient times for some reason. The part I don't understand is digestion. Is that literal food related? Yes, it is literal food related, but it's also information related. So you enter a five-centered mammalian body graph while sleeping based on the lunar imprint in your design side. Ah, that makes sense, especially because like naturally the moon is out, or you can see the moon when you're sleeping. But the same way that the sun rules us in the daytime or in our waking lives, the moon rules us in our sleeping time. Which that's something I just said right now, not necessarily a thing. But yes, we are very grateful for Prana. I have very vivid dreams. I astral travel a lot and various things in my dream. So astral travel is super interesting because I believe that when we are asleep, right? That's like our most vulnerable time, but it's also a very liquid time in terms of like perception and experience. And a lot of the times, astral travel, what people would think as the ability to like go somewhere else in their sleep, is actually a lot of times exploring like their own field, but not necessarily from the perspective that I'm exploring my own field. It's more like I'm exploring a space, but you're not claiming it as yours, and so therefore there's a an element of explanation. Because again, the mind is so powerful, and it's like there's so much energy on knowing yourself that sometimes the best way to learn about yourself or fill in the edges of the map is really to explore an area that you're not associated with as yourself. And so again, a lot of the excuse me, the astral travel, right? I believe a lot of that is not even like far out. You're not like going super far out. Like you're still exploring a lot of your subtle bodies just in ways that are less associated. And then through that, there's a lot of, again, it can be revelations or explorations or unlocking of energies. Things about the dreams too is like, you know, the logical mind or the mind that we do like all of our thinking with is not necessarily as relevant in the mind that we do all of our dreaming with. And so a lot of times, when people ask about interpretations of dreams, it's not so much about like what's the right interpretation of this as much as it is like, oh, how did it make you feel? Like what was the feelings behind it? I have rooms or spaces I use a lot in my dreams. I use a lot with changed variables and people in my dreams. There's all kinds of like really cool things that you can do in your dreams. Like I have like a workshop in my dream where I will sometimes make weapons, and I have this other portal that takes me back to like dreams that I've had before where I was a little weakling. You guys ever had that? Like where you're like a monster's chasing you in your dream and you like try to fight it, but you're just like it's like you're punching a wall and it doesn't work. So I will sometimes have this portal where I can go back into one of those dreams and take like a weapon that I've made or take what I know now about being more lucid in dreams, and I can exercise that state. And actually that's how a lot of my inner child healing journey has been lately. It was just like me going back in my dreams and just like slaying monsters that were chasing my kids, my inner child. So if anyone wants to experiment and steal that, please do that. Do that. And then don't forget to take your inner child with you though, like save your inner child, but then also like, hey little buddy, you want to come back to this place with me? Take them with you if you can. I always run away in my dreams or go into portals, but I've recently upgraded to force fields. Hell yeah. Stephanie, I'm curious. I don't remember my dreams well. The more I attempt to recall them, the more they drift. So, how are you trying to recall them? One of the best ways exercises for dreams is to just dream journal. So, like, have a journal right when you wake up. Just start writing, even if you don't remember things. Do that consistently, and eventually, your body and your soul will realize, oh, she's actually trying to remember her dreams, and it should start helping you. Also, if you smoke a lot of weed, I don't know. Sometimes weed can steal your dreams. Um, yeah, but definitely start writing and don't worry about grammar. Don't, edit it as you're going. Yeah, rereading it later might help as well. But that's one of those things is like sometimes the thing that you're grasping for, you're just grasping a little too tightly. So one of the things I would also recommend is, doing some exploration in the sense of like, um, what will the benefit to you be if you can remember your dreams? Like, do you feel like there's guidance there for you? Do you feel like there's insight? Do you feel like there's answers there for you? Explore like why you want a little bit more. What careers for a 6'2" projector emotional? I'm like, man, there's like that's the thing about like careers is it's not necessarily that like a one career would be better for a projector than another career. It's really about, again, what parts of you are engaged in the career and how did you enter into the career. Like the question I would have for you is what careers do you have, what invitations do you have to for career right now. Prana says remember when you're waking you've got different, oh, what is this, the JJK shirt, right? Remember, when you're waking, you've got a different body graph. Center yourself in strategy, authority. Oh, like versus dreaming. Yeah. So then, would dream times be good times to as a as a reflector, is like, would dream times be good times to initiate for everyone that wants to be initiating? Use dreams as entertainment. Yeah, that's kind of what I definitely use them as. Um, yeah, and it's not that they don't mean anything, it's like, again, dreams are so volatile. It's like, I'll have dreams sometimes that are like really jarring, and they'll just make me a little bit more like on edge during the day. Dreaming is like gaming. Yeah, kind of how I feel that. Gotta run. Prana, I love you, bro. Thank you so much for cruising with us. Always good to have you in here. Marco, I just started a new job as an inside sales rep, new to me. Um, well, I would say, if this is new to you, one of the best things you can do is, you know, you're going to have some mistakes. You're going to do some things wrong naturally because it's new to you. Whatever it is that you're afraid of doing wrong, and I say this from experience as a third line, like, understand that because you're not good at it, it's something that you can actually get really good at. So when it comes to sales, like, you've never done sales before. So what's the hardest thing for you to do? Like, ask for the sale and then be quiet and wait for the response. Um, it's just one of the things that it's like, some things are not going to, we're going to be really afraid of doing. Ask for the sale makes sense. It's kind of in the same vein. And so just make it a numbers game, and sales really is a numbers game. And even if you get 100 people that say no when you ask for the sale, if you ask 100 times and you make that your goal, that's what I would do. Is I would just really track numbers and not necessarily results, because when you're um, willing to, just like, oh, totally. And I know, because I've been in sales where it's like, it's really hard to be like, hey, the price of the thing is 89.99. Did you want to do cash or credit? And then you have to shut up, because what most people will do is they'll be like, do you want cash or credit? Oh, and also, I forgot to mention that this feature of the thing does really well. Like, when you start to become okay with rejection and recognize that rejection is just like, hey, maybe there's a better fit for them, right? Maybe there's something else that's going to be better for them, and each person is gets to decide for themselves, right? Same thing with like rejection romantically. Like, if someone rejects you, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that, you and me are not the thing, so then I can move past it. And it's like, again, it's just one of those things that it's like, yeah, you miss all the shots that you don't take. And when it comes to sales, it really is a numbers game. And also, if you can celebrate, like, yes, I got another no, right? Eventually you'll get some yeses, and you'll be surprised by, like, yeah, oh, they do want to buy. Oh, great, cool, right? And so celebrate those little victories. And again, when you're doing something new, it's so important to, like, just like, be on your own team, because you're going to have negative self-talk. You're going to have other people that are like maybe negative talking to you. I was going to consult Google, but then I saw you were live. Yes, Sadie, let's do it. I love it. People using this as instead of Google. Hopefully this is better than Google, because again, Google will try and fill your mind with a bunch of sales techniques and all that stuff. It's not that that's not good, but at the end of the day, manage your expectations. And if your expectations are, I'm going to ask for the sale 100 times today. If you do that for a month, you will be much less afraid of asking for the sale. And then the choke point in your job or in your career will not be as debilitating for you. Nom nom nom. Hmm. How you get into a career is very important because careers naturally you're working with other people. And so when you're working with other people, if you enter into it, oh, give me a second and all. Cool. Um, yeah, like for instance, I like I all of the work that I've done professionally, by professionally I mean like people have paid me for my time and my energy. Um, Soulful Sadie, I'm online for another 10 minutes. So happy I caught you. Love you guys so much. I live on an island, and I used to spend a lot of my time professionally, like going to festivals, going to events, hosting workshops, doing stuff like that, where I got to interface with a lot of people. And so oftentimes it was like people who were dealing with like the same things that I was dealing with, and they were they were just looking for help. And like I had done that already. And not that I was like over it and I was like beyond it, but I found things that really really helped. And so, what is basic for me, and I've always been very like, oh, I don't want to like share things with people because I've always been afraid of being wrong and being called out. But it was really like when I became a dad, my daughter, who's a manifester, initiated me on like, Dad, you gotta start talking about it. You gotta start putting your stuff out there. Cause think, and this is conversations that we had before she was even born. But I was, contemplating a lot of like, how am I gonna be a father? How am I gonna go from like, you know, making like $1,000 a month just traveling around, healing, um, you know, healing stuff. Like, how am I gonna go from that to like taking care of an entire family? And you know, consulted a lot with the moon, and the message that I kept getting was just like, yo, like just drop some roots down and just start sharing with people. And so then I just started posting like pretty regularly on TikTok, and things just had this meteoric rise. And then since then I've been as a reflector, my strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. So any idea that I have, a business idea, like we are still in the first lunar cycle of this as like a business format, in terms of like I have yet to see how lives consistently work for me. This is the start of week 3, and we're already almost at 20K, which I'm gonna have to end this live early because I'm gonna take somebody to the airport. Um, and I gotta do that before my session. And so we're actually gonna do that soon. But yeah, it's and I think also like being a parent, like you don't have to wait until you have a child dependent on you to start behaving like you have a legacy or like you have someone to leave things to. And maybe I'll end on this is like, I always thought being a father would be cool, but I never thought I was ready. I never thought I was good enough to be a dad. And same thing with social media. Like I never thought I was good enough to be like an influencer. And it wasn't like had low self-worth. It was more like I didn't want to invest the energy into it because then I would be responsible. Like I would feel responsible for, you know, putting messages out there and giving people counsel and doing all this stuff. And as a father, same thing. I didn't want to be a dad because then I would have to be responsible. And in my view, I would have to sacrifice some of my freedom. And what I've learned is that like being a father is like, I imagine it's different than a mother, but being responsible for something and having freedom is possible. And in fact, the more responsible I am to these things, the more freedom I've realized, especially as a man, that I'm able to have. Thank you guys for 20K. Y'all are are on fire. Tomorrow, let's go for, and if you guys are here right now and you enjoyed this, again, make sure you follow. But tomorrow, um, we're gonna be on same time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hawaii time. Let's try and get to 30. I know we've done I know I know we can definitely get to 30. Um, but yeah, love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. This was awesome. And yeah, love you guys. See you tomorrow. Okay, bye. 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hawaii time. Peace. All right, YouTube. Let's end there. Mom, if you're still there, I love you. Bye.